This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 132. We've got the fallout from Money in the Bank, as well as what's going on with Alberto Del Rio. The Undertaker recently spoke about what he wants to do when he walks away from the business, as well as what Lio Rush was originally planned to do at WrestleMania 35. Of course, we're going to take a look at the biggest topics and trends in the wrestling industry that are going on right now, and doing it with me, as always, he's the one, he's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Man, Money in the Bank was a pay-per-view that I thoroughly enjoyed. 2.5 hours of greatness. Yes, it was unique in regards to the actual Money in the Bank matches, both men and women. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, obviously, there were some things I didn't like. I kind of felt like it was way too overproduced, kind of like now this is the 4th or 5th match we've seen with this added production value. But at least they surprised us with the two winners. I was genuinely surprised by both winners. I don't know about you, but seeing Otis and Asuka take it down was actually pretty good. Now knowing what we know about Becky Lynch, it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense, because you weren't going to have Shayna Baszler take down the title this fast. You want that to be a slower build. So Asuka being the champion at the time now as a result of Becky Lynch is probably the right thing to do. Otis was a great surprise in that now you have a fun angle that you can portray, just have him have an extra prop. So all in all, it was actually a really good pay-per-view top to bottom, and I just like the fact that 2 hours, 25 minutes, in and out, and you had some great matches. And I just thought that kicking off the show with Jeff Hardy was excellent, because if this is his last run, you just want him to go out in style, and a match against Cesaro to kick off that pay-per-view was really good. And overall, by and large, I graded the pay-per-view solid B+.
So this was one of those pay-per-views where it fell on what would be a weird holiday. So I didn't get to watch the pay-per-view live. I was with my mom. I was at my mom's house till probably close to 10 o'clock. But I do want to get through the results with you and kind of pick your brain on a couple of things. So the main card, we have the New Day defeating the Lucha House Party via pinfall, as well as Miz and Morrison and the Forgotten Sons. Bayley defeats Tamina via pinfall to retain the title. Now, Sasha Banks got a little bit involved in this match, and that's going to lead to this bigger story between Bayley and Sasha Banks as we kind of move forward here. Now, Braun Strowman defeated Bray Wyatt, specifically defeated Bray Wyatt via pinfall to retain the title. Now, I thought this was interesting that they went with Bray Wyatt and not The Fiend, as well as they utilized some of the old Wyatt family props, the old sheep's mask, and it looked like Braun was at one point going back to join Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family, only to turn on Wyatt at the last moment. What did you make of this match, and what did you think about them using Bray Wyatt and not The Fiend?
The Fiend character needs to come out on big occasions, the Big Four, and maybe a couple more times on some bigger shows. But overall, I thought the match played out well. It told a good story. I was intrigued at the fact that Braun Strowman could have come back. I was like, it would have actually been a good idea if they actually carried it out, because then those two could have linked up again and run roughshod over a weakened WWE roster. I thought that would have been cool. But even going further with it, to have the switch, I have no problem with it. The betrayal by Braun Strowman, I thought the mask was cool. I don't have no problem with not seeing The Fiend. I thought that Bray Wyatt did himself some good acting there and some good character portrayal. Good story, good match. All in all, the result that was proper, being that Braun Strowman's the new champ. You want to keep elevating him. Bray Wyatt can keep, being involved in some of these stories in regards to, some past things that still linger in his mindset. So I thought it was very well done. In terms of the finishing, the match, all in all, it was a good match.
Yeah, I like that they used Bray Wyatt here. If you're going to put a loss on one of Bray Wyatt's characters, The Fiend is definitely not the character you want to put the loss on. So putting it on the Bray Wyatt character, I think, is the smart move. Also, it helps elevate your champion that you currently have. Bray Wyatt, he himself has lost matches. The Fiend has only lost one match, and that was to Bill Goldberg. So you don't want the Fiend to become this character who just takes L's, because it eventually just diminishes his storyline and diminishes the aura that surrounds him. So putting him in there as the Mr. Rogers version of Bray Wyatt, I thought was fantastic. I thought this was a really good way to help separate the two identities that Bray has and to help build Strowman at the same time. I thought this was a really, really solid match. I thought it was put together well. Drew McIntyre defeats Seth Rollins via pinfall to retain his title. I think this is the right way to go. I like what they're doing with Seth Rollins. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the biggest topics and trends, because on Monday night you've seen a totally disheveled Seth Rollins. I think it's a good way to go with him. And then you had mentioned earlier, Asuka and Otis win the Money in the Bank briefcases. These matches were going on concurrently. You had guys essentially falling to their deaths, and I use finger quotes here, with Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black. A little bit surprised Aleister Black didn't win this. He seems like he was the guy who was in line, who really needed this the most. Aleister Black doesn't win this. Instead, he falls 6 feet to a secondary roof. We all thought he died when he was thrown off of the building, off of Titan Tower. Your critique on this is it's getting a little bit overproduced. Go ahead and kind of delve in, and I really want to give you this time to explain, because I think you make some really good points, and I think you are hitting on stuff that most of our audience is seeing as well.
Yeah, it's the situation in which now, each time you produce a match now, it's like you're killing it to death. It's basically, bottom line, the law of diminishing return. Everybody freaked out about the Boneyard match because it was so unique. It was so different than what we had seen previously. And so what does the WWE go and do? They go, oh, the fans liked it, so now what do we do? Now we have another situation with Gargano and Ciampa, another produced match. Then we have another produced match the next night on WrestleMania. And it was a little bit different, obviously, with Cena and Bray Wyatt, but that's another produced match. Now you have the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and that's highly produced. And I'm not really a fan too much of wrestling with a musical undertone bed under it. You know what I mean? I like obviously AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan invading McMahon's office, seeing him do the whole, COVID-19, with the hand sanitizer. That was cool.
I thought
but
that was
overall,
a pretty cool spot.
That was a cool spot. Everyone liked it. The food fight, yeah, it's fine. But in terms of production value, all the cutaways, just the nature of it, it would have been actually maybe more interesting just to actually air it live. Just have it happen there, and it would have produced maybe an added element of fun and things like that. But then you can't have AJ Styles, relive the Undertaker situation and go down that road. But by and large, you can have produced match, but you can't have 5 in the span of a month. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing, is that you look at what's going on with WWE, and you and I always talk about it. They find something that people like, and then they beat it to death so that you don't like it anymore. It's something where a produced match should only really happen once or twice a year at most, so that it's built up, it's a surprise. It's maybe used for older wrestlers that want to, maybe reintroduce their characters or reinvigorate a character. But by and large, doing it for the Money in the Bank, it just kind of for me was just like, all right, they're doing it way overproduced, and it just for me, it was not as exciting as I would want it to be. My one critique of the overall pay-per-view was the Bayley match. A roll-up on Tamina really killed a great match. I was just like, and the roll-up wasn't even that great. It was kind of like she got her down, kind of just scooted up on her shoulders and pinned her. After Tamina was gaining momentum, I was like, come on, Tamina was having a good match. An elevated, good championship opportunity that Tamina had. It didn't need to, I'm just like, when they write that, if I'm Tamina, I'm like, I'm not going out that way. Make her just kick me. Make her just cheat or just get disqualified or make her pin me make her do a move. I'll take a loss, but you devalue a character when a big girl like Tamina just gets rolled up on her shoulders. And it's like, why do they gotta do that? It's just a finish that should just be cut out. Just eliminate the roll up, transition from a move to a roll up and the match is over. It's almost like, what? If they're gonna do it, it's gotta be a small package. It's gotta be where at least you're hooking the person's legs. Yeah. Shoulder roll pinups are horrible. So that left a bad taste in my mouth. Overall, that was the only match I didn't like on the card. The rest of the card was great. The New Day, and, obviously that match was unbelievable. Great chemistry with all involved. Everything that went down on the pay-per-view was great, other than the women's match there. I just had no place for it. I thought Tamina was telling a good story. She, was getting beat and things like that. She made a comeback, but then it got derailed by Bayley, who continues her run and things like that. So otherwise, it was overall a good pay-per-view. The surprise element makes it good. Just put the produced wrestling matches aside for a good long while, and let's keep moving forward for the WWE.
So a couple things. I think what happens with a wrestler like Tamina, I don't think she's necessarily comfortable with her stature in the company. So when they're like, hey, we're going to have Bayley win via roll-up, I think she's just kind of like, okay, instead of like really having the brass tacks to be like, no, I don't think that's going to work. And I think what you end up with is you have a couple wrestlers who are either in fear of their position or aren't comfortable bringing things up to the rest of management and making those adjustments. And what ends up happening is, like you said, their characters do suffer. Tamina is a wrestler who I don't know will ever get out of the lower mid-card in the women's division. I don't ever see her really progressing. She's not great in the ring, and when she does have a good match or a decent match, it ends sloppy or there's something that happens that really detracts from that match. And then you brought it up earlier when we started the segment recounting the pay-per-view. It was like 2.5 hours. We are in a time where WrestleMania will go 5, 6, and sometimes even 7 hours. How nice is it to get a condensed pay-per-view? Like Monday Night Raw is 3 hours long, and at times feels like it's an eternity to get through. Whereas you have a 2.5 hour pay-per-view that runs from start to finish, nonstop action. I don't understand why WWE hasn't figured out that
that's the limit.
Give us right. Yes. You can give it to us like this all the time. Even on Monday nights, give it to us like this all the time, and it's going to be okay.
And look, cause a pay-per-view can be 3 hours at the beginning. Start with a good match in the pre-show going on at 6:30. Everyone knows that there's a build-up at 6 in the pre-show, a lot of talking heads for a half hour, then give us a good 10, 15-minute match, and then you can, start the pay-per-view at 7, go till 9:30. That should be the limit. 7 to 9:30 should be the calling card of pay-per-views. On the rare occasion, like maybe a WrestleMania, SummerSlam, the big four, then you can push unlimited time from 3 to 3.5 hours. But remember, this is a new age society, and you're competing with 1,000 other things that people want to watch. Heck, I was getting even more excited to say, come on, end this thing so I can see the Undertaker documentary. I was thrilled to see that right after the pay-per-view because it was so good. And then I think they did it too, probably because they knew that they were going up head-to-head against the Jordan doc. So you're going to lose a huge chunk of that audience anyway. So in essence, you recognize that they were smart and realized, okay, we got a good product, we got a good piece of content that we can air next. The Jordan documentary is going to take place. So we have an opportunity to just get in and out, end this pay-per-view, and it could be something that's really fun and really pleasing to the fans. And I've seen nobody that's complained about the length of that pay-per-view. It was perfect. 2.5 hours should be it. And if you want to go 3, hell, if you want to put more matches on the pre-show, fine. It's not a big deal. Nobody cares in regards to seeing, matches in the beginning if they missed, because you can go back and watch it. It's on demand. So just get the pay-per-view out in 2.5 hours and keep it moving.
Yeah, it was pleasantly surprised and kind of shocked that it was over as quickly as it was. If WWE can find a way to start to deliver us programming in that fashion, I would be so very excited. Now, for the prediction results, I got 5 to Doc's 4 correct, Asuka being the one that really put me over the top, while we both missed on the men's Money in the Bank winner, which now leads our prediction results to me winning 4 times while Doc has won 3 times.
You got it.
So I've got a slight edge in the results here. Now let's move on to the biggest topics and trends in wrestling. So after an awesome Money in the Bank, we end up going to Monday Night Raw, and we open. And I don't know about you, but I knew Becky Lynch was coming out to address the winner of the Money in the Bank match. And WWE has a very simplistic formula. Generally, when they preview something like this, that it's going to be the thing that's going to kick off the episode. So I wanted to make sure I was in front of my TV no later than 8:01. I get in front of my TV at 8:01, and Becky comes down in all of her glory, and then she has her announcement about her impending pregnancy. And no, I am not the father, unfortunately. You know, she's been cheating on me with Seth Rollins, so I'm not the daddy. But this leads to a bit of an issue because Becky forfeits her title. Asuka ends up winning it because she won the Money in the Bank title match. Does WWE have a problem with its women's division?
Yeah, good call, because of the fact that now you just lost the biggest piece of it.
Yeah.
You know, now you got to shift over to Bayley and Sasha Banks. Asuka's great. She's definitely worthy of having a title, but basically you got now on Raw and SmackDown maybe 3 to 4 women that you're invested in truly. 5 max. I mean, Shayna Baszler, Bayley, you got Sasha Banks, Asuka, but the rest of it, the top end is good. We can give them that. The middle is terrible because it goes to Carmella and Dana Brooke, and you're just like, oh, you know, Lacey Evans probably has to be thrown into the mix now and get elevated. But while I understand your point that the division could be weakened, I think what more the issue is, what more we should harp on is they're misusing a lot of people. I mean, you got Alexa Bliss, and for the most part, you keep relegating her to being a host, and yeah, she had a good match on SmackDown.
You know what? Though? Can we let's talk about Alexa Bliss real quick, because
yes, she can be used better.
A couple years ago, we'll say maybe 2 years ago, she seemed like she was it. She was the new it girl, right? She has the look. She's able to cut a fantastic promo. Yes. She's really good in the ring. On top of it, she's double jointed, so when they slap her in an armbar or they do something to her, she can sell like nobody's business.
Right.
And then she started getting concussions. I don't think she is 100% healthy. I don't know if she will ever be 100% healthy. I think she's still dealing with some of the post-concussion syndrome, because if you ever watch any of her matches, she's in a tag team for a reason, because I think they really want to highlight her, but they can't. If you watch her matches, Nikki Cross does all of the grunt work. Nikki Cross is in the ring getting beat up. Alexa Bliss will come in and she'll either take the pinfall or she'll do a couple moves and then she's out. She is never in the ring for an extended period of time, and she is never taking any type of bump. It is all Nikki Cross doing all of the legwork. I don't think she's 100% healthy. I think you have a very damaged roster, and I don't think it was at the expense of Becky Lynch. I think Becky Lynch got hot, and Becky Lynch made herself. The whole Nia Jax punch to the face and getting knocked out in the Survivor Series build-up, and then wiping the blood on her face and going through the crowd, that made her. That cemented her. All right? And then what happened was everybody couldn't elevate their game to her. Now, at WrestleMania this year, WrestleMania 36, Shayna Baszler was supposed to take that title from her. Vince lost faith in Shayna Baszler. That's what happened there. So I think you have wrestlers who haven't been able to elevate themselves, because it would have worked out perfectly storyline-wise if Shayna Baszler would have took the title off of Becky Lynch at WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
Becky Lynch could have rolled off into the sunset, dealt with her pregnancy, been away for an extended period of time, and then came back if she chooses to. Because this is what's really weird now. Becky Lynch has left wrestling at the pinnacle. She has been at the tippy top. Nobody is higher than her. She is the mountaintop of women's wrestling right now. And she has left at the very, very top of her game. And she might not choose to come back. She may choose to not come back if she finds either motherhood to be that satisfying, or if she gets that wrapped up in being a mom. I mean, the WWE schedule is extremely difficult. You hear it all the time. Guys talk about how they're on the road for 300 to 320 days a year. And it's a constant grind. That is difficult for a new mom.
Yeah, it makes it interesting too, because now you got to look at and consider that for all women wrestlers is that, when they hit that 30 to 35 age group, they're going to want a family and things like that. So we could be seeing now, really a situation in which when we look at these women, we say, how much longer can they last? And I see one more run though. I think it could be in 3 to 4 years. She's 36, has a 1 or 2 year run like Ronda Rousey. You'll see her again. 1 or 2 matches, maybe not a full schedule. I would probably not think that, knowing that Seth Rollins will be on the road a lot, she's going to be a mom, maybe has one more kid, get it out of the way quickly, and I think she comes back probably in 3 to 4 years to a huge ovation, maybe a Royal Rumble situation, and then one-offs here and there. It's a genuine surprise to me. I had not heard any rumblings at all that she was pregnant. I was genuinely surprised.
Both of us were shocked. We were texting each other as it was breaking live, and we were stunned, absolutely stunned.
So that's that.
Let's transition over to her husband real quick. So Seth Rollins loses a big match to Drew McIntyre and shows up on Monday Night Raw. To me, this is what I said out loud. To me, he looks like the broken character of Matt Hardy. He looks like broken Seth Rollins. He's got the crazy hair. His belly was sticking out. Normally Seth Rollins is CrossFit Jesus. He's got abs on abs on abs. He was sticking his little belly out. He had crazy hair, looked totally off in the distance, looked like his mind was somewhere else, looked like he was plotting and scheming on something that hasn't even happened yet. I love what they're doing with Seth Rollins as far as the character goes. Him taking out Rey Mysterio was great.
Yep, it was good. Seeing Murphy in that tag match, kind of wondering what was going on and things like that. So I thought all in all, the way, at least you could say it's interesting. We want to see what's next. And I think that off the heels of a terribly rated Monday Night Raw last week, it was I think the lowest rated Monday Night Raw ever. I think they came back and bounced back with the show that was worthy of being on television. It was a good overall 3-hour program, and one in which if you sat through it, you got a lot out of it.
So you just brought up the ratings. So I think this is a perfect segue into what Raw and SmackDown are doing. They're making it to where competitors from either brand can cross over, and this is a total ratings grab. They're trying to keep their ratings up because the ratings have been, like you said, at an all-time low. It seems like each and every week you hear about the ratings falling lower and lower and lower. What do you think about Raw and SmackDown wrestlers being able to commingle on each other's brands?
Yeah, you have to recognize that if the ratings are bad, the audience is telling you this product is crap, step it up. So when Drew McIntyre said Baron Corbin's coming over, I was like, sweet, I'm looking forward to next week. I like the fact that Drew McIntyre is having good matches. He looks like a champion. I mean, like, God, he's like prototypical champion. He looks like it when he walks. I mean, nobody in the last probably couple years has looked as good as Drew McIntyre with a title around his waist. He's just like, okay,
right.
I'm the guy, and this is the guy. Drew McIntyre should carry the company. I just hope that he gets at least to hold the belt in front of some fans at some point. Let him have a good year run with it because they've invested in him. Let him have it. Let him enjoy some time with the fans because, when a guy has to come out to no fans and just do his routine, it's crazy. But yeah, absolutely. Crossovers. Definitely, and they also need to include NXT. Bring Finn Balor up for a one-off here and there to have some feuds. Bring back some, elevate some people here and there, and let's keep it moving. Let's not worry about brands. Let's just worry about putting on good matches, good stories, day by day.
Speaking of NXT, it does sound like Austin Theory will be shipped back to NXT. I want to know if this is the right move. He joined Zelina Vega's group, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought the way that they were building her up, and building up her faction was outstanding. This week we had a little bit of dissent. It sounds like what's going to happen is Austin Theory was the odd man out there, and he is going to get shipped back to NXT. Is that a good move for him? Is that a good move for Zelina Vega? Is it good for Monday Night Raw overall?
Yes, absolutely. It's good. Austin can have an opportunity to get over, and he seems like a perfect candidate to go down to NXT and really shine and have some good matches. Good call all the way around. Right now, with a condensed lineup, you're going to have to feature some bigger end stars on Monday Night Raw. So Austin getting a chance to go down to NXT, perfect opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing where they put him.
See, I think it's a good opportunity for Austin Theory. I don't necessarily know if it's the right move for Zelina Vega's group.
Right.
It seems like it is splintering at the seams, and she can't pull it together, so it makes her look bad. WWE. News was announced, I believe it was on Wednesday, that they are stripping Sami Zayn of his Intercontinental Championship. Sami Zayn totally disagrees with this, by the way. He has went on Twitter and says, I'm still the Intercontinental Champion. I totally disagree with this wholeheartedly. WWE tonight will be having a tournament to crown a new Intercontinental Champion. Is WWE justified to strip Sami Zayn of his Intercontinental Championship? He just had his wisdom teeth pulled, so he wasn't able to compete. He hasn't been at a couple shows for a little bit now. I think this has more to do with the coronavirus. Remember, he's Canadian. I believe he might be in Canada, so travel restrictions are limited for him. So is WWE in a spot to where they can say, hey, we're taking your title from you because you haven't been able to perform or defend it?
Yeah, the whole defending it once every 30 days is used conveniently. The problem that people have that they're bringing up is, well, Brock Lesnar appeared to not show up for 60 days or 90 days. And
it was almost 3 months.
Yeah, and he didn't defend the title. So let's start applying that rule to everybody, including Brock Lesnar. The spirit of the rule I like. You have to defend it once every 30 days, but also people know that it's not because he's choosing to just, hold the belt hostage. This is a wrestler that's concerned about his health. And anything in the midst of the pandemic should be wiped away, that you don't lose the title because of your concern about getting in the ring. So you just got to keep it moving. You just have him show up here and there, maybe not wrestle, but be involved in a storyline. But I disagree with them stripping Sami Zayn of the title 100% because he was coming into his own with it. He was starting to bring some of the luster back to that title, and he was doing a great job with it. To strip him of it is stupid, and it just reeks of maybe a little bit of an angle too to kind of help out Sami Zayn in regards to maybe the us against the world mentality. But if that's the case, if it's really true, if it's a work or a shoot in regards to their really the real nature of their decision making, I just think that it's wrong overall storyline wise to take the belt off of Sami Zayn.
Yeah, I don't get it either. Like you said, they conveniently use the must defend your championship within 30-day rule whenever it's at their leisure. If it's Brock Lesnar or it's a bigger star, it's no big deal. Sami Zayn seems to be a guy who has been a total miss. It just doesn't fit with WWE. Right. When his contract comes up,
leave.
I think you are going to see a guy similar to Jon Moxley, who will go to AEW and will completely flourish and will be outstanding. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as his contract comes due. Let's switch over to AEW real quick. So I really felt like we had a weird episode of Dynamite this week. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was bad. I actually really enjoyed it. But to me, it didn't feel like there was anything really noteworthy or newsworthy from it. What you ended up getting was a continued build towards Double or Nothing, which will be taking place next Saturday, which I'm excited for. And I think the biggest thing that came out of AEW Dynamite this week was the Stampede, the Stadium Stampede match between the Inner Circle and the Being the Elite with Matt Hardy. Do you think this is going to be a success? Because I feel like this was a reaction to what we got last week with Kenny Omega, Matt Hardy, Sammy Guevara, and it was Chris Jericho. So I think this is just a reaction to that because we both enjoyed that. We both thought it was a lot of fun.
Yep. And I agree with you.
Now you're going to make it bigger. And I don't know if sometimes making it bigger doesn't always work. Do you think this will be a success?
I think it'll be a success because of all those involved. I agree with you. I didn't classify it as weird. I was just disappointed in the overall presentation of AEW this week as opposed to what we got on NXT. So, sometimes it happens. You can't be pleased with every show that gets put on the air. AEW definitely had a build-up show. I definitely understand what you're talking about. But on the heels of the shows that they have been putting on, it did leave me going, okay, you could have done a little bit more, especially with what NXT had. And so for me this week, I thought NXT put on a better show 2 hours wise than AEW. But to your question, absolutely. I think that the bigger the better for the Elite and the Inner Circle, two factions that are right now atop of the wrestling world. So the characters involved will not let it fail. I'll be thrilled to see it when it takes place. But if you missed Dynamite this week, you didn't miss much.
What did you like most about NXT? I've seen my girlfriend Rhea Ripley has reappeared and she's ready for some action, it looks like. So what did you like most about NXT this week?
Yeah, absolutely. That was exactly what was on my list. Rhea Ripley, I'm thinking to myself, wow, in a division now with the women that's struggling, she can just come in and take over. She can do some things. I like in terms of the wrestling matches, the excitement that was put together on the card. It just kind of felt like with AEW that it was kind of like, okay, this is a professional show. With NXT, just had a little bit more better work rate, I guess you would say, in terms of the wrestling matches that were put on. I think the workers that were on that card they each wanted to say, okay, here I am, and they each wanted to put on a good match. So I didn't feel like there was even a dead spot on the show. So I think that's what impressed me the most on that show, was just the work rate and the overall show. And obviously Rhea Ripley just caught my attention.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. She always catches my attention. She's one of my favorites. I've been invested in her. I think it was a crime to take the yes. NXT championship belt off of her at WrestleMania 36.
Yep.
I was pretty disgusted with that, and I can't stand Charlotte Flair. So, overall, good week in wrestling, huh?
It was a good week in wrestling. Looking forward to the build-ups that we got going on. Looking forward to SmackDown and things like that. So it was good. Exactly. A best way to put it was an enjoyable week of professional wrestling. A lot of good content. Again, as we always talk about, Chris Van Vliet is doing great interviews. Not only did he interview last week Zack Ryder, he then follows that up with an interview with Heath Slater, and that was unbelievable as well, just talking through character development and just how far back Heath Slater went when he was having matches a decade ago with Big Van Vader. So that was good. The Undertaker documentary, top notch. So a great week in professional wrestling, and I'm looking forward to what is going to come ahead. So hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What are the things that caught your attention this week?
So WWE and WCW Hall of Famer Sting is no longer with WWE. What? It's unclear if his contract has expired or if he was just let go. Remember, Black Wednesday happened roughly 3 weeks ago now. So the speculation is he will maybe end up in AEW. That's really ramped up as of late, especially with Cody Rhodes prodding and poking the dragon on Twitter. On Monday night, Seth Rollins broke a secret Vince McMahon rule in his match against Rey Mysterio. Brian Alvarez recounted on Wrestling Observer Radio when he explained there is in fact a secret rule. It's a Vince McMahon rule. He continued, now this is kind of a lengthy quote here. In a tag team match, you know how you can tag and there's 5 seconds where you can both be in the ring at the same time?
Yes.
If I tag you for 5 seconds, we can both be in the ring as the referee counts to 5. However, outside of that 5 seconds, if you are not the legal man, you cannot touch the other team's legal man. Vince is adamant that this to be enforced. If you are legal, you are allowed to hit the other team's illegal man, but the illegal man cannot touch the legal man. So Ray, because he's legal, is allowed to hit Seth on the apron, but Seth on the apron is not allowed to hit Ray. This gets a little bit messy here. Seth can hit Alistair because they're both illegal. Yes. Legal can hit illegal, but illegal cannot hit legal because illegal can hit illegal.
Yeah.
Are you following me so far?
Yes, basically, if you're not supposed to be in the ring, you're not supposed to lock up with the person that is legally allowed in the ring. So basically, after your 5 seconds are up, if you're the guy that's supposed to be on the apron, you're not supposed to be touching the person that's supposed to be in the ring on the other team. Makes a lot of sense. And when I saw that, I thought of that. I'm like, I don't really typically see that a lot. So I didn't know it was a rule. You never see it, but it caught my attention because it was unique, and it didn't register as a rule. It registered as you don't really see the illegal man getting in the ring a lot with the legal man. So it caught my attention.
So this continues. Vince is apparently very adamant about the referees enforcing this rule. So that's why the match kind of ended awkwardly before they went to a scheduled post-match attack on Rey Mysterio. Brian Alvarez continued, Vince is so adamant about this rule that when the wrestlers put together matches, there are spots that they want to do, they can't because they will violate this rule. Even though I said all of that, you are still allowed to break up a pin. So illegal, as noted, can hit legal to break up a pin if the illegal man tries to make a pin and the ref isn't paying attention and the illegal man hits the illegal man. I think that's a disqualification. If you are on the apron and you step inside and you punch the legal man, even though there is no bearing on the match, that's the disqualification. But if someone is pinning your partner and you step in to break it up, which is a save, that is totally legal. This is such a convoluted Vince McMahon rule, if I've ever seen one ever in my life.
No doubt, right?
Let's move on to Alberto Del Rio, who is a hot mess in real life. This is a really sad, graphic story, which I'm about to tell you here. Former WWE star Alberto Del Rio, real name Jose Rodriguez Cuchin, allegedly struck, choked, and raped a woman earlier this month in San Antonio, Texas, per a police report. Del Rio was arrested and charged with counts of domestic violence and aggravated assault. TMZ Sports obtained a copy of the report, which describes an attack and a sexual assault that took place, really and truly was almost 16 hours, from May 3rd to May 4th. Alberto Del Rio ended up choking this woman, beat her, smacked her, used objects on her. The woman only spoke Spanish. She told police that Del Rio attack began when he accused her of cheating on him. Del Rio allegedly broke her phone, her laptop, before attempting to destroy her passport by setting it on fire, and then physically attacked and sexually assaulted her. According to the police report, Del Rio shoved a sock in the woman's mouth so she couldn't scream, and when the sock was in her mouth, she could not breathe, the report noted. Del Rio also allegedly threatened to kidnap her son and drop him off, and this is the quote, drop him off in the middle of the road somewhere. The woman, who was sexually prodded by different objects, was beaten, had her items destroyed, and was physically and mentally abused, left woozy and dizzy from the attack. Del Rio, remember, he was involved in something similar, in a similar situation with Paige, who at the time did not press charges. So this is not the first time Alberto Del Rio has been involved in something of this nature. Alberto Del Rio really seems like a piece of shit, if you ask me.
Man,
No.
it screams of somebody that probably should have been arrested, might be on the same path of CTE with some impulse control stuff, because of the fact that I think you'll bring up that this is not the first time that we've heard of this with Alberto Del Rio. He's had issues with Paige.
Yeah, absolutely. His issues with Paige were, that was weird. It recounted, it went back, there were a couple different issues. There was the issue in the airport where he was alleged to have gotten physical with her. There were issues at restaurants where they were screaming at each other. So him and Paige had a really volatile relationship. Let's transition into The Undertaker. So you talked about how you watched the Undertaker documentary that took place this past weekend. Undertaker recently spoke about how he wants to retire, and it's kind of low-key. It's super Undertaker-like. He stated, I kind of want the John Elway ending, you know? The John Elway ending where he went out, he won a couple of Super Bowls, and then he just retired. Or Peyton Manning. He wins the Super Bowl, then retired. When I'm looking at it, I want that match. The match when it's just like, oh yeah, bam, I still got it, I got gas in the tank, I tore it down, and now I walk away. Is that not so Undertaker?
Exactly, but I think you might have had that with the Boneyard match. I think that's the best match for him to walk away on. If you do it again, then I think the opportunity for you to walk away might be now, and I hope he takes advantage of it, because the more you see him, I mean, the documentary was shot back 2 years ago when he faced off against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and the next episode is going to highlight how pissed off he was because that match stunk. And you realize he's been wrestling ever since. So it's time. And so if he walks away, riding off into the sunset, it's the best way to be.
Yeah, I think he's looking for that match where he's like, yeah, that was it. I'm good. I can go. I think he will continue to look for that match until he's satisfied. It might get really, really sad before it gets really, really good. According to Leo Rush, this is our last note of the week. According to Leo Rush, he was supposed to be the Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania 35. At the time, he was Bobby Lashley's mouthpiece. I don't really recall him being all that invested in the Intercontinental Championship belt. Leo Rush is a guy who, when I first seen him in ROH, I was blown away. I was like, this dude's got it. He's going to be fantastic. He looks like an old WCW cruiserweight. Ends up going to WWE, goes to NXT, does some good stuff in NXT, gets called up to the main roster because he can cut a promo. And he's a guy who I really think needed to humble himself, because his own hubris really got in the way of his career, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. Oh man. What do you make of it?
I think he ended his own career, really and truly. I don't know. I mean, last week we were talking about him possibly not ever wrestling again. He's only 25. I don't really buy that. But at the same point, I think you're the reason that you're in this situation. So you have to do some soul searching, and you have to fix yourself before you can get back out there and do what you want to do.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's
Good
all I
stuff
got for this week's news and notes, my man.
Good stuff. Great wrestling podcast. Tune in to the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast each and every Friday on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. One quick side note, the re-airing of WrestleMania 3 was awesome in that it was built around FS1 in that they re-aired WrestleMania 3, and the hour after on Backstage was really interesting in that you got to get the first-hand insight of the match with CM Punk interviewing Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and it was awesome. So I got a chance to rewatch that WrestleMania 3 match, and yeah, by far, if you're looking for just some good wrestling, Steamboat, Macho Man, WrestleMania 3, just, oh my God, 20 minutes of greatness in terms of storytelling, at least 20 false finishes. It was awesome. And then the final 2 weeks of Dark Side of the Ring are going to be outstanding. They did Legion of Doom, was the last episode that they aired on Vice, and then the season finale, unfortunately, is going to be the re-airing and retelling of the story of Owen Hart. So this season has been amazing. Legion of Doom, the promoter that wanted to get into wrestling, the last couple of weeks the shows have been amazing. LOD was awesome, and now the season finale will be Owen Hart this coming Tuesday at 10 p.m. So tune into that. Lots of great stuff in the world of wrestling. Follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast, and we'll be there to break it all down and have some fun with our fans. And great stuff, sir. I look forward to our next recording.
Yeah, man, this was a good time. Always is.
Good stuff. We'll talk very soon. Take care, Adam, and I look forward to our next broadcast recording. Peace out.